Today, my exclusive interview with former ECW World Heavyweight Champion, the new F'n Show Jerry Lynn. Hello, welcome to Live for Wrestling. I'm your host, the Fans Addiction, Lonnie Valdez. We'd like to welcome you to today's show where I sit down and speak with the new F'n Show Jerry Lynn. Jerry, thanks for sitting down and doing this interview. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.
You've had an incredible series of matches against Rob Van Dam, AJ Styles, amongst others. How would you feel if your legacy in this business is that you were able to bring out the true potential in your opponents?
Well, that's the object. Well, Brad Rangens, the guy who trained me, said the secret to having a great match is if you and your opponent try to make each other look like $1 million, and it'll always be a great match. So that's what I always strived for, was always trying to have the best match possible and give the people something to remember.
When was the first time you heard the fans chanting "New F'n Show," and can you describe it for us?
It was in Asbury Park. I think it was a Living Dangerously pay-per-view I had with RVD. I think it was actually our first pay-per-view match. And after, he was calling himself the whole F'n Show. And after a series of moves, offensive moves on my part, there was a whole section of the crowd started chanting the new F'n Show. So it was, I never come up with a showbiz name for myself, but so that was a really cool thing, was that the fans came up with the name for me.
Did you plan to write "Die on your stomach" in Steve Corino's blood, or was that just a spur-of-the-moment thing?
I planned it. It was, I think we were just starting our feud between me and Corino, and I don't know if it was with if it involved what they call it, with TNN, because I had Cyrus.
The network.
I don't know if Cyrus was with me yet. I think so. I think we were just starting our feud out. And on that pay-per-view, I think it was our first pay-per-view match with Corino and I. And, at that time, every match, he was bleeding buckets. And I asked him, I think it was a couple weeks out before the pay-per-view, I asked him, I said, so are we going to have, some blood in this match? He says, no, Paulie just wants a wrestling match. And I'd already been thinking about the match, what we can do to, like I said, I was trying to give the fans one thing to remember, even if it's, it's not like a semi-main or main event. If it's just somewhere in the middle of the card, I always try and think of one thing to give the fans something to remember. So I was thinking ahead of time what we could do in this match, what I could do to give them something to remember. And I was thinking, so I asked Corino that. I said, is going to be any blood in this match? He said, no, Paulie just wants a wrestling match. And I was like, well, crap. And he says, why? And so I told Steve, I said, I had this idea. When it was time for my comeback, I'd take your blood and do war paint with it. And then something just clicked, since it was ECW and it was extreme, I thought, why don't I take it one step further and write "Die" on my stomach? And I thought, too, at the time, and I was always trying to come up with ideas of something that's never been done in wrestling, and I don't think that had ever been done in wrestling before. And so I told Steve, and he loved the idea. He says, I'll ask Paulie. And then a week out from the pay-per-view, he said, yeah, Paulie said, go ahead and do it. So that night, it was a cool moment because, like I said, our feud was just starting. There wasn't a lot of heat built up in the feud yet, and when it came time, I could just feel, when I started doing the war paint, and people realized what I was doing, you could just feel the heat rise in the building. And then when I started writing on my stomach, and you could just feel like all the curiosity, like, what's he doing? And then when people saw the word "die," it was just, the place just erupted, and I thought, what a bunch of sick bastards. And then it dawned on me, well, who thought of the idea,
Yeah. Jerry, thanks again, man. Really appreciate it, and thanks for everything in your whole career, man. You've entertained everybody. Appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. I'm glad you were entertained. Thank you.
Well, that was it. Jerry Lynn is one of the nicest, classiest guys I've ever met in my entire life. We'd like to thank him for doing the interview with us. If you guys enjoyed the show, please subscribe to us, and we'll see you next time right here at Live for Wrestling.